All right, thank you so much. Welcome to another episode of the award-winning Sales Game Changers podcast. My name is Fred Diamond. Of course, I'm the co-founder of the Institute for Excellence in Sales, and I'm also the host and the producer of the Sales Game Changers podcast. Gretchen, you were on our show in December of 2020. You were episode number 390 or something. We'll put the link to that show in the show notes. We're now well over 650. And actually, when we had you on the show in December 2020, the topic was talking about how behavior management is key to ensuring sales performance effectiveness. But I'm very excited about your new book and what we're going to be talking about today. And Gretchen, like I mentioned, I'm excited. You have a new book out. It's called The Happy Sales Manager. And we're going to be talking about that book, but we also have one of your clients who's read the book. It's Mike Dorrington. He's the sales VP at Amarok, which is one of Selling Power's best places to work in sales. And as you know, at the Institute for Excellence in Sales, we have our designations, our Premier Sales Employer. Applications are now open for the 2024 Premier Sales Employer. And of course, we have our Premier Women in Sales Employer designation as well. All right, so your company is called Braveheart Sales Performance. Get us caught up, Gretchen. Tell us about this new book. Tell us why you wrote it. And let's get deep into some of the ways that Mike is utilizing some of the things that you talk about.
Yeah, sure. Love to. Thanks, Fred. So I wrote the book because I, at one time, was an unhappy sales manager. I had been a successful salesperson, got promoted into sales management, which is, the typical path, let's say, and found that I didn't really know what to do. It didn't come naturally to me. I'd been trained in sales. I started at Procter & Gamble, very regimented sales program. And, several years later, through a couple different jobs, had been promoted. And I was miserable. I was stressed out. I was frustrated. I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know, I didn't want to ask my boss, like, what should I do? Because they apparently had, given me the confidence to do it. So the book has been in my head for about 7 or 8 years. I've had the table of contents for 7 or 8 years, went back to it and changed it, decided finally to get it out onto paper and in Kindle version, so that we could help as many other frustrated or questioning, overwhelmed people who have been thrust into a sales management role and don't really know what they're supposed to do. So I wrote it in a very basic fashion to make it super easy to consume.
One thing we talk a lot about on the Sales Game Changers podcast is that first-time sales manager is probably the hardest job in the company. And of course, we're doing today's recording in November of 2023, and it's 3 years after the pandemic. So a lot of people were promoted to sales manager in early 2020 and never got a lot of the stuff that you would typically get in the office with your leadership to learn, and they had to learn on Zoom. And it's really interesting. Mike, when I told somebody I was interviewing the author of The Happy Sales Manager, they said, that's an oxymoron. So, and I even went to your Amazon page. I think it might even been on the Amazon page as well. So give us some of your insights, Mike. Again, you're the senior sales leader at Amarok. Tell us a little bit about what Amarok does, and give us some of your thoughts on the book and what you got from it. You've been working with Gretchen for a number of years. I'm interested in, now that you saw her thoughts out of her brain on paper, how you accepted what she had put out there.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be on with industry experts, and then someone who is a true mentor of mine in Gretchen. So I couldn't be more excited to talk about her book and anything sales related. It's like my favorite thing to talk about. So I have a very similar story to Gretchen's, maybe a little bit different. I was a top performer at a company called Cintas years ago. And my manager, who I wasn't really happy with, but he was the person who hired me, he left the company. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, who was the CEO of another organization, and I said, "Oh, I'm thinking about leaving Cintas. I'm going to, they fired shouldn't they fired? They let him go. He left. He left there, right?" And so, and my dad looked at me and he goes, "Wait, you're going to leave because your manager's gone?" And I go, yeah, I mean, he hired me, and I was like, there's nobody in that role. And he goes, do it yourself. And he goes, and so he gave me a book at the time called Be Your Own Sales Manager, and that it gave me good like foundational principles of like of a better mindset as an individual contributor, of how to lead myself through metrics. But I will tell you, the reason I was excited about Gretchen's book when she was telling me about it was, really don't think there is another book like it that talks about the basic foundational principles of what it takes to be a happy sales manager, but also a very effective sales manager. And so I was telling her in a conversation, recently, where someone had said to me before, as I was into sales management, like, hey, listen, do you know the basic principles of sales management? And I fumbled through a bunch of stuff. He's like, hey, no, you run effective one-on-ones, you run, inspirational sales meetings. And as I was reading Gretchen's book, I'm like, oh man, she nailed it. Like, this is like, I would love to have given this book to the 12 people I promoted out of the pandemic, and who did not get probably the leadership that they needed in training. And I think it's a great foundational book. So I appreciate being here. I appreciate Gretchen as a mentor and friend, and also I think she's created something that is very useful in sales management, because it is a miserable time taking over that role.
I want to ask you a specific question. I haven't asked this before. Again, you mentioned the word mentor. You've been a client of Gretchen's. Give some advice, Mike, if you could, on how you utilize Gretchen as a mentor, how you utilize her as a resource. I'm presuming you pay for her company's services to provide some consulting and guidance and training, but give some advice because we have tons of sales leaders who listen to the Sales Game Changers podcast. Give some of your advice on how to best utilize the expertise of someone like a Gretchen. And then Gretchen, I'm going to ask you the reverse question, which is, how do you like to specifically work with leaders like Mike to ensure that they optimize their performance?
So I will say this, probably the best mentors are the ones who enjoy the mutual communication between both parties. And they're not always looking to get something out of it. Listen, at the end of the day, I'm a salesperson, Gretchen's a salesperson. So we're, obviously, hey, listen, we want to sell stuff. Oh, shoot, sorry. I need to, okay. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. And so when I will tell you that mentorship starts from a pure love of the sales game for both of us. We were lucky enough to be I was lucky enough at the time that I met Gretchen that I didn't know anything about the industry I was going into, which was the security industry. And instead of like trying to sell me on like, services of consulting in the security industry, she really just listened to me as a seller and what I needed to do to find the right people for me. So that's really where we started our relationship. And as we continued to grow and develop, she listened to ways that she could help me. And I know that comes with the sales part of it, but it was also, it went beyond that. Like I would refer her to people that I knew because it was a pure ability to help versus sell. So
Gretchen, I appreciate that. Gretchen, same question. So give some advice to the Mike Dorringtons of the world, the sales VPs that your company services, that you've tutored, mentored, consulted to, trained over the years, about how they can best accept your expertise and guidance.
I guess where I would, if I think back to the relationship like we have with Mike and his company and other clients that we enjoy working with and see the biggest impact, is that the leader does have to kind of be totally engaged in wanting to grow, change, adapt, and not just be like, oh, here, go fix my people, or just fix this one thing, but be totally immersed. We always start with a deep dive analysis from a very data-based perspective, science-based, not just like, okay, this person's selling, that person's not selling very well. I don't think that person's going to make it. And so I think I'm just going to get rid of them. We don't rely on gut instinct. And so I would recommend that leaders of the organization not just rely on their instincts and their gut, but you can get the best out of an outside third party perspective by also not relying just on the third party's gut instinct, but using science and data. And Mike does that really, really well in all aspects of his leadership of the sales team, so that you can make changes. I'm not saying changes as in we're going to get rid of people necessarily. I'm saying so that you know how to optimize the effectiveness of all the people on the team.
So, Mike, Gretchen mentioned the science and the data. Talk about some of the critical metrics that you spend a lot of time thinking about as you ascertain the performance of your team. Obviously, reaching quota, but get a little more specific into what you look at, what's most important to you. And then, Gretchen, I'm interested in your thoughts on what Mike says.
Yeah, I think so. From a pure sales standpoint, the thing that we try to get away from is just the pure measurement of activity. Like I'm a believer that an active person is a successful person. But if you just stick with that, I do think you're really selling yourself and your organization short, right? And so we really look at yes, the hustle statistics to understand the buy-in, but also then we start to look at the skill-based stuff, like really looking at what it takes to convert something to properly to an opportunity. And then can you apply a sales process with effectiveness to bring those things to close? So like win rate is always really important. Conversion rates are really important. But we also have we use a business case on every single prospect that we use, and we use those to make sure that the person can justify mathematically what the that there's a proper return on investment, or that that what we're selling is actually valuable. And that is something that Gretchen's team helps me with, because you'll find a lot of salespeople who are not comfortable even talking about money in their own lives. And that's one of the things, key metrics we look at in the beginning of when we're hiring people, to make sure they have that comfort level. And we do tests for it, but we also test them in interviews to make sure that that what we're getting will translate into success when they're here. So that's one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, I agree with that. Gretchen, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that's made Mike so successful, and therefore the culture of his company so successful, is that he focuses on the accountability factors, right? The quantifying of factors, following a process, that type of thing, but also the quality factors. So coaching, it's not just about activity, and it's also about like, how well do they do the job? How well are they doing it when they're having those conversations? And I would say that that's maybe one of the things that really sets Mike and his organization apart, is that focusing on accountability and coaching. So focusing on what the person has to do to be successful, because they have the data associated with, they know, like, you can't make one phone call, or you can't do one thing a week and have success. But also, how well are you doing it? And then stepping in and coaching and helping individuals know what good looks like, et cetera.
Yeah, we talked at the beginning of the show about how many people were promoted into sales leadership at the beginning of the pandemic, and some of the challenges that led to. Most sales managers, of course, come from the sales ranks. Gretchen, give us your thoughts, and then Mike, I want some of your real world experience too. How can you tell if someone will be a good sales manager? And conversely, how long do you give them? That comes up all the time, right? We promote somebody obviously because they're a high performer, and then either they succeed or they don't, for reasons. But give us some insights, Gretchen, into how you could tell if a person will be a good sales manager or not.
So because they were a good, strong salesperson doesn't necessarily make them well qualified to be a sales manager. Now, being, highly motivated, and I know Mike will talk about this, is helpful, but probably the biggest distinguishing factor is that they have to be team focused instead of me focused. So focusing on, okay, it's not too different than selling. It's like, okay, what do I need to do to help the whole organization, the whole team thrive. And that means understanding the individuals on the team, not just being focused on, me. That's probably the biggest distinguishing factor. And it doesn't mean that people can't grow that, but, so that's really a mindset thing, less so than a skill set.
Mike, so what are your thoughts on that? I mean, how long will you give someone? Obviously, it's a big decision on who you're going to promote to leadership, obviously. And, you hope that person's going to have a nice, long, successful career. Give us some of your insights into that, and how long do you give someone to reach the level that you expect them to?
I wish I could tell you 6 months or something like that. Is fair that I would say the time specific part of it is probably a little more feel. And here's what I mean by that. If you're looking at someone who can do the fundamentals of the job, like they can actually perform and show up and run a sales meeting, they can do coaching, feel right, but their team just isn't taking to their coaching and developing, I will give those people a little bit longer than their peers who have a harder time even doing that stuff. What I find is the top performers that come in and are mostly successful based on feel, like gut instinct and things like that. Oh man, this person can't perform like me, they're out of here. And those people I will pull the trigger on faster, because they are going to disrupt a larger part of the organization than the people who can do the fundamentals, and they're just not able to get there, which sounds like the opposite, right? Because you think that those people would be who can come in and by feel, you can make quick changes, and then people, the success jumps through the roof. To me, I think getting the fundamentals of sales management is actually harder than being, understanding the feel instincts of either selling or of sales leadership. So I really look for the people who understand kind of a balance of that science and the art. And if they can do that, I can work with them and help them be a better leader, a better coach, things like that. I will say, there was one other thing I wanted to say about this topic overall. If a seller was a highly active person and that is how they define success, I have a harder time feeling that they're going to be successful at the next level than someone who had a good mixture of both art and science and understanding how they became successful. Because the sales leader that goes to the person and says, hey, just do 5 more calls, you'll be successful. I got to think that the failure rate is probably 80% or higher. And so,
yeah, I would agree. Yeah. That makes sense. I'm going to ask you a question in a second, Mike, about how you're using the book and how you think that sales managers can use the book. Gretchen, I'm going to ask you a question. Usually I do this differently. Usually I would ask this question of Mike, but I'm going to ask it of you. Again, we're talking today with Gretchen Gordon. She's the author of The Happy Sales Manager. And we're talking to Mike Dorrington. He's the sales leader at Amarok. How would you describe Mike as a sales leader? This isn't to build his ego or anything, but you work with, which would be nice, of course. But no, how would you? I asked this question.
It will build my ego, though.
I usually ask the question. Yeah, Mike, describe yourself as a sales leader. But I'm going to flip it since you have such a nice relationship. Gretchen, how would you describe Mike as a sales leader? And tell us some of his strengths. Again, you work with hundreds of sales leaders, obviously, as do I, and I'm curious about how you view him.
So Mike is high energy, so he is charismatic. So that's just a personality. That's just him, right? So he attracts activity. So it's kind of like he's always active. But that's not necessarily what makes him a great sales leader. What makes him a great sales leader is he is diligent about the analytics. He's diligent about the accountability of what does somebody need to do, but he's got this massive human side that he wants his team to be successful. And it comes across. He's not just I'm a high energy, just do what I do and crack the whip and all that kind of stuff. He is, kind of living in the trenches, so to speak, with his managers. He's got, several managers underneath him, and he knows what they need to do to be successful. And he's not just telling people, go do this. He is, it oozes from him that he wants everybody on the team to be successful. And I would say that that is not necessarily always a trait that we see. Sure, sales leaders want the business to be successful. They want to grow more sales, but he's very much interested in what motivates all the individuals on the team and helping them achieve their goals.
So, Mike, what are your thoughts on what she just said, and how have you taken some of the things that Gretchen just said to create, let's just say, a great culture at Amrock for salespeople?
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Gretchen. That's very nice of you to say. I appreciate that. And thank you for setting that question up. That was so awesome. So here's what I think. I have kind of like a 4-word mantra that I use to kind of like define my leadership, which is inspire, coach, care, win. And to me, my purpose for being is to create the most successful leaders that I can create. So I always remember a story early in my career. One of my favorite stories was there was a senior vice president at a company I worked with, and they were retiring. And to celebrate their retirement, they brought up every single person on stage who they had either managed or that person had managed, and their whole coaching tree. And I just thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And so that, to me, that was it. Like in life, like when I get to retire sometime, never, hopefully they'll put up the people I worked with at every organization who I hopefully have tried to inspire them, coach them, care about their success, and help them win. Like that's, to me, the ultimate success. So I appreciate that. I work hard at it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that the Institute for Excellence in Sales does is we have an award event every spring, and we're going to have our 14th annual award event on May 17th in Northern Virginia. We give out an award. It's called the Jay Nussbaum Rising Sales Star Award. And essentially, the main criteria is someone under the age of 40 who we expect will have an amazing year. Jay used to run the public sector divisions of Oracle and Xerox and Accenture. So a lot of times we'll refer to him as having that like Bill Parcells type of down chain, if you will, where the guys and ladies who've led teams at so many technology companies around the DC Beltway all have reported up to Jay at one point. I'm curious, Mike, before I ask you one more question about the book, what is your management expect of you, the people you report to? What do you wake up every morning thinking about? What do I have to do, or what does my team have to do to achieve what the people I report to want me to achieve?
Oh, that's a great question. So the first thing is we are kind of in a unique business in that we are in a business that has security has a lot of competition, but for what we do, there isn't a lot. So we are really running to set records. That is really what I'm tasked with every day, is that every hour, every day, every month, every year, I'm trying to set a new record and build. Like, we want to be the ultimate perimeter security company in North America. And I don't mean to just pull our vision onto that, but they expect me to be doing the little things and the high level things to make that happen for not only the organization, but for everybody out inside of sales, outside of sales. Like, to me, it all starts with sales, and that is what I set the tone for the entire organization to make sure that everybody has a successful call, hour, minute, day, everything. So that's what they expect.
I like that concept of setting records. Before I ask you both for your final action steps, your final thoughts, Gretchen, what else do you want us to know about the book? I mean, I love what Mike was saying about it. How do you want people to use it? What are you hoping to achieve from it? And what can our listeners understand? I presume I know it's up on Amazon. Is that the easiest way to get it also? Or how do you recommend people find it? Yeah.
Yeah. Or they can go to the happysalesmanager.com and it'll take you can order it then on Amazon, and there's other resources available on that website. How I want people to use it is to recognize that sales management, sales leadership, to be successful, drive sales, and also still have a life and enjoy what you're doing, requires, you might have to adapt and learn some new skills, but you also have to have the right mindset. So the book is really a short read. It's designed for people who have limited attention spans. And there's a workbook that goes along with it too, that the book will, give you the place to download that. So you can actually apply some of the principles immediately. And that would be my recommendation. It's designed mostly for someone who is either new to sales management or has been struggling. It might even be a founder of a small company who is, trying to build a sales team and doesn't know exactly what to do. So it's pretty foundational and designed to be, kind of a roadmap to make it easier to do your job.
All right. Well, congratulations again on publishing the book. I published 2 books last year, and publishing a book, for people who listen, I tell them all the time, it'll change your life. So definitely do that. Congratulations again. And have you written a book before this? I forget. Is this?
Nope. This is my first book. I've done some ebooks and things like that, but this is my first book. And you're right. It does kind of change your life. And it also helps you, really cement the way you see the world. The goal is, it's not completely altruistic, but it is to get the message out to a wider audience, beyond maybe the client companies that we work with, which are, B2B middle market companies.
No, I mean, it's a great point. I mean, having published a book and knowing that someone read your book, I like to say, if one person reads my book, then one person reads my book. Hopefully we're looking for thousands, and, hopefully companies are going to buy, a couple dozen, a couple hundred. And, the funnest thing about writing the book is signing the book. So, Mike, I don't know if you had Gretchen down to your location, if you guys meet anywhere, but do that. Have her come down, sign the books, talk about it. It's always a lot of fun. I want to acknowledge you again, Mike. I want to thank you for all the great insights. Again, the sales leader at Amarock, one of Selling Power's top places to work for salespeople. So thank you both for the great content this hour. Really kind of flew by. So I want to ask you for your final action step, something specific. And if both have given us a lot of great ideas for sales managers to be happier, to have success, give us something specific people should do right now after listening to today's show or reading the transcript. Mike, why don't you go first? Something specific they should do right now.
Okay, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm sorry, I'm a rule breaker in kind of that way. So the first one is, life's too short to be unhappy. So be a happy sales manager. I'll say that, like, not just plug the book, but I would say, hey, the reason I like this is it is a good foundational principle and something that my team uses and will continue to use as we put more people into sales. Overall, I do think embracing change, technology, being a student of sales, maybe one of the more important unsung things about being a sales leader. Like, it is my passion. Like, it's my favorite thing to do. And so I think that is part of what makes, I think, a difference between a good sales manager and a great one, or a sales leader, is really that love of the game of sales. And I think that really resonates. I think if you do that, things, you'll see a difference in your results.
Absolutely. Gretchen, why don't you bring us home? Give us a final action step people should do right now to take their sales career to the next level.
They need to adopt the mindset, and I'm going to dovetail off of what Mike said. They need to adopt the mindset of adapt or die. Our world is changing, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon. And it's for salespeople, it's for sales managers, it's for leaders of managers, it's for leaders of companies. It's not I did it and I've got it figured out. You have to have that mindset of adapt or die, which is is from the money movie, the Moneyball, but is also an adaptation of Darwin's theory, right? So you have to have that mindset that it's going to be constant change and you've got to adapt.
That's a great point. And we've all gone through so much over the last 3 years. Again, the show is being published in 2024. It's a fresh new year for everybody. There's a lot of optimism. We work with a lot of companies, well-known companies around the globe, and everyone's doing their best to stay optimistic and adapt. Once again, I want to thank Gretchen Gordon. I want to thank Mike Dorrington. My name is Fred Diamond. This is the Sales Game Changers podcast.